Hi, this is Leland Chee, creative executive at Lucasfilm, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Zehr. This is the podcast you're looking for.
I thought that the end of the war would mean an end to losing more of our brothers. Our mission is not over yet.
There is nothing of greater importance to secure the future of this empire.
I wasn't planning on killing you, but you're making it very tempting.
This is James Arnold Taylor, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi. I have a good feeling about this.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Coffee with Kenobi. I am your host, Dan Zehr, delighted to talk Star Wars with you. Ever since May of 2013, I want to help provide a positive, family-friendly, spoiler-free place to discuss this galaxy far, far away. Imagine walking into your favorite coffee shop and hearing a discussion of Star Wars films, Disney Plus live action, animation, books, comics, collectibles, or Star Wars experiences at the Disney theme parks. I want to share that experience here on this podcast, weekly interactive live video every Tuesday night, my website, special events, email newsletter, and more. Find out more and join our Star Wars community at www.coffeewithkenobi.com. Thank you to the official travel partner of Coffee with Kenobi, MEI, and Mouse Fan Travel. Check out coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefan-travel for a no-cost, no-obligation quote, and let them know Coffee with Kenobi and Dan Zehr sent you. On today's show, Tom Gross and I break down the Season 3 trailer of Star Wars The Bad Batch. So pull up a chair, grab your favorite coffee mug, and let's have some coffee with Kenobi. Joining us today for a cup of coffee, it's been a bit. It's been a few moments since we've had you back on the show. Let's bring in our longtime friend, the host, co-host of Teachers in the Dungeon, and our favorite little buddy, Tom Gross. Hey, buddy.
Hello. It's good to be here back on the big show. Enjoy it. Oh, how you doing, Dan?
I'm doing great. You did a marvelous job at Steam Into Star Wars last weekend. It was an amazing success, consistently full of people. We had, of course, our great friends, Tyler Pompa, Greg McLaughlin, Ross Hollabin, John Alois, Sean Degenhart. Who am I missing?
Andrew Harrison was
Andrew
there.
Harrison and Michelle were there. Mm-hmm. A lot of our friends, Darren and his kids who joined us on the live show. It was just really wonderful. So congratulations again to you on another amazing experience.
Oh, thank you so much. It was a blast as always. It's good to be done. You know, you need a break when you do something like that. But already thinking about things and ideas for next year. So super excited and happy that it went well.
Yeah, it was so much fun. We had a lot of fun. Steam and the Stars kicked it off. And then as in Monday, January 22nd, we got the news. We got the news of a date for Season 3 of Star Wars The Bad Batch. We got a trailer, and we got a series of release dates. Here's what we know. We know that Season 3 is going to have 15 episodes. They come out every Wednesday. The first one is February 21st. So February 21st is when The Bad Batch starts. And on that drop date, we're getting 3 episodes. And the dates and the specific names of each episode are on coffeewithkenobi.com. You can go there and find the information as well as the trailer. A lot of exciting stuff. Before we get into the specifics, and it is the same situation as Rao is supervising director with Jennifer Corbett as the head writer. They have been spearheading this thing since the beginning. What are your overall thoughts on The Bad Batch just in general? Not the trailer, but just the series.
You know, it quickly became one of my favorite animated series. Now, that's always easy to say when you're in the moment of a series. You know, oh, Rebel Season 3 is out. Rebel Season 3 is my favorite. But Bad Batch sits in my mind as a very favorable position. You know, it's hard to separate it from the Clone Wars because we were introduced to the Bad Batch in Season 7. But it definitely has its own feel and its own story, of course. But so I've enjoyed the Bad Batch mostly because of the action, B, the time period of the beginning of the empire, which I think is a fascinating time period because that's what we grew up with, was the empire. And C, or third item, is I fell in love with the characters. Every single one of them, even supporting cast, are, the villains are hard to not like. You just they're so well built and created, and so the answer to your question is I love this series.
I agree. And when we did our review, not really a review because it wasn't a review, but sort of a reflection of 2023 in Lucasfilm, I said that the Bad Batch season 2 was my favorite thing, more than any live action shows last year or anything, because it's just, the characters are so fantastic. The narrative is sharp and crisp. D. Bradley Baker is just an immense talent. And it's got progressions that tie into everything. Ties into Clone Wars, ties into Revenge of the Sith, ties into leading up to A New Hope. It's just absolutely tremendous. And we fall in love with these characters: Crosshair, Tech, Wrecker, Hunter, Omega. Did I get everybody?
You got everybody. Yeah.
Got everybody. Yeah. They're just tremendous, tremendous characters. So at the end of season 2, and I hate to even bring this up, but we lost someone very special. When we see this trailer, well, you know what? Before we get to that, do you want to give one word for the trailer? I mean, it's just a teaser trailer, but
one word. Okay, give me a second to think about that.
While you're thinking about it, I'll jump. I'm going to say gripping. Gripping is my word. There are a lot of jaw-dropping moments. There's some emotion, but the thing that grips me is when they show that sequence of Tech dying, of Tech falling, sacrificing himself for everybody. And every time I rewatch a trailer, it grips my heart. I just remember that sensation, that feeling of, oh my gosh, this is like the real war now, the aspect of Star Wars, because you can lose characters. They can die. We don't know what happens. I always said that was one of the best things about Star Wars Rebels, is we don't know what happens to these characters because they're not in the movie. So their fate is up to anyone's guess. You can lose them. We've seen that we can lose members of the Bad Batch. It makes it scary. It makes the cost much more powerful. And it reminds me of the emotion that this thing produces. So that's why I would say gripping.
So my word that I would use is heavy. And that's not a reference to Wrecker, but heavy as in so many threads of stories that have serious significance to the overall story of the Bad Batch, but also seem to have, as you mentioned, the threads that go out to a larger story of the Empire, and linking back to the Republic and the Clone Wars. And so I just feel like in watching this trailer and thinking about Bad Batch, there are just some really heavy moments. You mentioned Tech, but then at the end of season 2, we have that. While we're reeling from the loss of Tech, we have the chase and the capture of Omega, which was an amazing conclusion to that series or that season. And so heavy.
Yeah. I agree. So let's talk about the trailer specifically. The beginning, there is a sequence where we see the Bad Batch getting rescued by the Wanda Sykes character, whose name I suddenly can't remember. She's like the archaeologist. Oh gosh, I can't remember her name. Well, that's okay. It'll come to me. She then we see a sequence of things. There are a couple surprises. I think the biggest one, and we'll just talk about this now, is the return of Asajj Ventress. Oh. And right away you see her with the blonde kind of punk haircut. She's got a yellow lightsaber, and people who are very much fans of Star Wars Dark Disciple may have been confused by that. So Brad Rao is the executive producer. There was a quote that was on StarWars.com. I put it on Coffee with Kenobi's Instagram, and it says, "We don't want to spoil anything, but want fans to know that any new storytelling with Ventress will align with the events of Star Wars Dark Disciple." That's important because we've been told for a long time that the things are that all of the stories are connected. And this is proof of that. That's a big deal. If you haven't read Dark Disciple by Christy Golden, I've always said it's one of my favorite books in the Star Wars canonical literature series. It very much covers Ventress as someone who attempts to take down Dooku. She's got Quinlan Voss on her side. It's a terrific book, a very powerful narrative. It's a series of Clone Wars episodes that never were created, but the scripts existed, so she took those scripts and made them into a novel. I'm going to probably reread that book again before I watch The Bad Batch because I want to be reminded of what happened with Ventress. So I'm not going to spoil it for people, but I couldn't recommend enough rereading Dark Disciple again. So all that to be said, this came out on the live show this week. Do you wish that you saw Ventress in the trailer? Would it have been more fun to kind of have her surprise us by watching the episode proper?
Yeah, there's so many ways to look at that. And by the way, I'm amongst I'm sure many that have rushed out to begin reading The Dark Disciple. I've not read it, and it's always been on my list because I know how much you have talked about that book.
Yeah,
so I started reading it last night and hope to get it done by the middle of February.
Cool.
But to answer your question about Ventress, Fijinoa is the name of the character. Sorry. I just threw out just a whole bunch of things. The Wanda Sykes character is Fijinoa.
Oh, yeah. Fijinoa. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the Ventress. So, I mean, okay. So there are three ways you really could have done this. You could have kept it A, a complete secret. B, just the voice of Ventress. Or C, you actually show her, which is what we got. And quite honestly, I think it's perfectly wonderful that we got to hear her and then see her. And I just really, one thing that Star Wars has always been wonderful at is they give you something that you thought, oh, I didn't want to know that, but it is such a sliver that it's not even, it's a skim off the top of the cake, and there's so much more content. So it only makes me more excited to see what is going to happen and how is Ventress going to play a role in the Bad Batch. And so I'm excited that we both saw her and heard her voice, opposite direction. We heard the voice first, and then we got to see her. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled with that because I think it just only tells me that there's going to be more weight to this show.
I agree. I'm happy about it too, and I'm very much like I like to be surprised. I don't want anything spoiled. This isn't a spoiler because the creators chose to give us this information. And the good news is that if this won't be the only surprise. Like I'm still not a prisoner of the moment who has to have a WWE moment where someone runs out into the arena and surprise us. Like I don't need to have that for my story to be complete. But this tells me there's so many other things that are going to be given to us in this 15 episodes that this is probably not even the ice. This is not even the icing on the cake. It's just a sprinkling of the joy that's going to happen. Because this show has always been about the core of the Bad Batch themselves and their unit as a family. And Omega is sort of coming into her own as well.
Yeah, I would agree. And I mentioned that in my kind of description of the Bad Batch is how the characters are what makes the story so compelling. I mean, we haven't even mentioned. Oh, we forgot to mention was Crosshair, because he technically was. He's a part of the Bad Batch. We just haven't seen him as a member of them for a while, but he's still there. We get that scene where Omega is walking through the hallways of detention or prison, and we see Crosshair there. She sees him, and so we know he's still there. But boy, is he is defeated. I mean, he's not the Crosshair we saw in the first two. Yeah, it is sad, and so it makes you. I don't know what the purpose of putting that clip in there, but what it did for me was it made me more worried for Omega. Is that how she's going to end up, or is that how she's going to end up if we don't have some kind of rescue fast?
Yeah, there's a heavy amount of peril. There's not a lot of hope. There's a lot of ominous imagery, but there's still that we've got what does Hunter say? We've got one more fight or one more battle.
Yeah.
Something akin to that, which is really great. Another big thing in here was the Emperor Palpatine surrounded by his royal guards in all red, which of course we think most notably of from Return of the Jedi. I was happy to see that. To me, that's always a thrill when Palpatine's a part of it. And he says something about whatever you need is yours to help secure the longevity of the Empire. I'm paraphrasing. To me, it's like, okay, how about Darth Vader? Throw him in there. I mean, that's what the Emperor will do, but obviously that's not the case. Vader's busy doing other things. So this, to me, when you show the Emperor around the time of the formation of the Empire, it's very, very serious if he's going to get involved. That didn't sound like Ian McDiarmid to me. And maybe it's been posted online who the voice is, but I'm not sure who it is because McDiarmid voiced the Emperor in other seasons of the Clone Wars, of the Bad Batch. I'm sorry.
I wondered that too. And I don't feel like I heard enough to be able to say for certain. But I did wonder that because it didn't seem quite right. But again, just a few lines, who knows? The introduction of the Emperor into this series definitely, again, goes along with my one word of that is heavy. If the Bad Batch have gotten the attention of the Emperor, they're doing something right, I think, or they've done something awful and they're
really wrong.
They're done for. But so that definitely adds a new twist to this. Also makes you wonder how Asajj is going to fit into this whole story. Because now, you have a former Sith that potentially has a crossover partnership, something with a former Sith apprentice. So that is definitely something that goes along there. You're talking about the dread or the seemingly hopelessness to it, but Hunter has that great line that a true soldier always has that hope of, there's the next battle, and the next battle is where we can turn things around. This kind of builds off of that. But the one thing I was really happy to see is there is a bit of levity in this because Wrecker is just being Wrecker.
Yeah.
And you have to appreciate that for what it's worth because it does seem like this is going to be a very dark, episode or season. And so to know that you've got Wrecker who you can still have a little bit of fun with, that just gives me a little bit of hope and enjoyment.
The hope is good because we will need that. This series, here's the full schedule. So again, February 21st, there are 3 episodes. They are called Confined, Paths Unknown, and Shadows of Tantus. On February 28th, we've got episode 304, which is a different approach. On March 6th, episode 305 is The Return. On March 13th, we actually get 2 episodes. We get episode 306, Infiltration, and episode 307, Extraction. March 20th is episode 308, Bad Territory. March 27th, episode 309, The Harbinger. April 3rd, we get 2 episodes. We get episode 310, Identity Crisis, and episode 311, Point of No Return. April 10th, episode 312 is Juggernaut. April 17th, episode 313, Into the Breach. April 24th, episode 314, Flash Strike. And then May 1st, the finale, episode 315, it is titled The Cavalry Has Arrived. Now, of course, as you know, I'm not someone who reads the tea leaves. I'm very opposite that. But all very militaristic titles. We know that Jennifer Corbett has a military background, and she's very attentive to the brotherhood and camaraderie of what these people, what these soldiers mean for each other. So it's hard to kind of go much further on this without veering into speculation territory. Because as you know, for me, a speculation is expectation without regulation equals fan constipation, which is why I very much stay clear of speculation for myself and avoid reading it from other people. But I'm excited. Like, I was already thrilled about this. I just want to know when it was going to come out. Now we know it's coming out. soon, February 21st. So just less than a month away. I'm not going to do a rewatch probably because I don't know if I could sit through that episode 2 finale, that season 2 finale again, because it'll make me too sad. So I don't know, but I won't say this made me more excited because I was already as excited as I could possibly be for the next Star Wars animated series. I can't wait.
So what I would say excited wise is how soon it is. I don't know why I had in my mind that this was going to be a fall release. I don't know. Did we know it was going to be earlier or
we didn't? All we knew is we're going to have this, and we were going to have the other 2 more Star Wars
Crew and the Acolyte. Is it? Yeah. And so I guess I just assumed that this was going to be a fall release. And wow, when they dropped it, I was like, okay, this is great. But then when they revealed the date, that's where I was like, this is serious. Because I was planning on this summer rewatching the first 2 seasons of Bad Batch in preparation. So I guess I don't have time for that because I got to get that book read between now and February 21st. That seems like that's more important. Would you agree?
I agree. And like I said, I want to reread it. I haven't read it since it came out. I actually have a great interview with Christy Golden about the book in the Coffee with Kenobi archives that I recommend you listen to after you read it. And there's some great symbolic stuff with this creature, and I don't want to give anything away.
Okay,
but it's really great. Well, anything else you want to say about the trailer? This is kind of a quick cup of coffee, but I had to at least talk about the trailer because I think it's whetting the appetite of one of the best parts about Star Wars is this era, but Star Wars animation and the Bad Batch. I think it's about as good as it gets in Star Wars.
Yeah. So a couple comments is that opening sequence of that you had mentioned a little bit earlier where Fujinoa makes the rescue, but that Juggernaut Clone Wars era transport or whatever that is, that action scene. Yeah, that action scene that's happening there. Just I was like, oh, classic. How much I miss the Bad Batch and the action-packed sequences that they have in that show. And the other thing that I was like, where is the Marauder? Why don't we see the Marauder a little bit more? Because I know me and Corey have had just some great conversations about the Millennium Falcon and characterization.
Yes.
But I feel on the same level of the Marauder to the Bad Batch as the Millennium Falcon to Lando Calrissian, Chewbacca, and Han Solo. I just think it's such a magnificent ship. And then when they did that episode where it was stolen, I was so offended by that.
I agree. Because it's like their house.
Yes. And so I really love that ship, and I want to see more of that. So I can't wait for the Bad Batch for all of the reasons we've talked about.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z, the podcast you're looking for. This is...
I agree. I am very much looking forward to it and looking forward to chatting with you about it at school and here on Coffee with Kenobi. Well, that is going to do it for today's episode. But Tom, please let everybody know about where they can find you online, not only your blog, but also your great podcast.
Oh, thank you. So, yeah, you can reach me on, you can catch my blog that Dan mentioned, Seeking Positivity in the Galaxy. That is the name of it. It is, you can find that out there if you just Google Seeking Positivity in the Galaxy. I write about just about anything. I did write about the loss or the death of tech last year.
Yeah.
So you could see my thoughts about that. I probably should revisit that to see if anything has changed emotionally for me, because that was a striking moment for me. Mm-hmm. You can also catch me on Twitter, or X, I suppose, is at Draftline, DRAFTLINE. And then the podcast you're mentioning there is Teachers in the Dungeon. And you can catch us on Facebook and Instagram for our show, and that is Teachers in the Dungeon for both of those. And then our X is at Dungeon Teachers.
A big thank you to Tom Gross for joining me to talk about Season 3's trailer of The Bad Batch. The website is coffeewithkenobi.com for Star Wars news, announcements, reviews, videos, and so much more. The official travel partner of CWK is MEI and Mousefan Travel. CoffeeWithKenobi.com/MouseFanTravel is where you can go for a no-cost, no-obligation quote. And right now, if you are a Disney Plus subscriber, you get a free Disney dining plan. Find out more at CoffeeWithKenobi.com/Disney Dining Plan. Coffee with Kenobi is live Tuesday nights on video at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time at CoffeeWithKenobi.com/live, which will take you to our Facebook page and YouTube channel where you can comment, participate, and be a part of the live interactive show. The Facebook group is the CWK Cafe at CoffeeWithKenobi.com/community. It's a wonderful place to go for Star Wars thoughts, comments, reviews, and opinions in a family-friendly, spoiler and drama-free place. I get asked all the time, tell me about the CWK Alliance. Well, the CWK Alliance is so important. In fact, our show, this podcast that you are listening to right now, is possible because of the members of the CWK Alliance. Thanks to you, this podcast, CWK Live, event coverage, and so much more comes to life. Find out how you can help the show for as little as $1 a month by joining the CWK Alliance, and you receive access to CWK Pour-Over, an exclusive weekly audio and video podcast not heard anywhere else. Members at the CWK Alliance All-Star level receive a video edition of CWK Pour-Over and access to a private Facebook group as well. Plus, CWK Alliance Grandmasters join me for a monthly live video call. Find out more at CoffeeWithKenobi.com/CWK Alliance. And 10% of your monthly contributions go directly to the St. Jude Children's Hospital. And by the way, if you are a member of the CWK Alliance, you can listen to CWK Pour-Over on Spotify. Want to leave a comment, say hello, or reach out? Email me at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com. You connect with me on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads, and also on LinkedIn. Coffee with Kenobi is on social media such as X, Instagram, Threads, Pinterest, TikTok. You can give this show a like on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi, or you can subscribe to Coffee with Kenobi's YouTube channel, where you can find over 700 podcasts, videos, past live shows and events, and more. Please take a couple of minutes to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. If you want to get a Coffee with Kenobi t-shirt, hoodie, or mug, you can find those at coffeewithkenobi.com/shop. Finally, if you need a speaker for an upcoming event, you can book me to come to your school, conference, business, or organization. I'm happy to talk with your group about how to tap into your strengths, bring out your very best, discuss mythology, or customize a presentation to fit your specific needs. Thank you for always joining me for a virtual cup of coffee. I appreciate your time and look forward to the next opportunity to talk Star Wars with you. I'm Dan Zehr, reminding you that this is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.